Hey, Ted, forget about WoW. Let's talk about WoD.
Like the MMO? Like the RPG about vampires?
Yes? No.
What the heck are you talking about?
Darkvision, Ted. I think we play it totally wrong in D&D. Welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and as usual, I'm joined by this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
You don't have to be in the dark when it comes to D&D if you hit that subscribe button.
And if you want Nerdarchy to light your way through the worlds of Dungeons & Dragons, then you're going to have to ring that notification bell.
All right, let's jump into our video about Darkvision. But, before we do, quick, if you want to help support the channel and get cool stuff, we have a store, Nerdarchy, the store. You can go over there, pick up out of the box encounters, the PDF, the book. We got a ton of other stuff to check out as well. And also, there's a coupon if you sign up for the newsletter. So you might want to get involved with that. With that, there will be links in the description as always. Let's jump into it. Let's talk about Darkvision. And when it comes to D&D, there's a lot of races that, have Darkvision and may have never known the dark.
Yeah, so Dave, this is an idea that you brought to the table to discuss. Darkvision has changed quite a lot over the editions of D&D. And a lot of the races in 5th edition have Darkvision. So there's a lot of different things to, kind of unpack and, figure out.
Yeah, so this is going to be less of a mechanical discussion and more of an RP role-playing discussion, story elements. How does having Darkvision or not having Darkvision define your character in a game like Dungeons and Dragons? A huge swath, almost half of the playable races on D&D Beyond have Darkvision. So literally, other than closing their eyes, these races never know truly know darkness, right? Because they can see out to 60 feet as if it was dim light. So they can kind of see and function in the dark. But, it's not like us humans, right? If we go outside and it's moonless, it's pitch. You see nothing. Literally, I've been in complete darkness where you can hold your hand in front of your face. You can't see nothing, So, we really want to delve into how that affects the character, these characters. And, there's another part of it, too.
And what's that?
These characters that see in the dark, they have dark vision, they see in grayscale, right? So it's not quite the way they see when there's light. So they have two worlds they live in, right? The world of this grayness where they can see everything, but it's not the full color world they're used to in the daylight. And there's still a reason to want to use torches and lanterns and stuff like that, but it's definitely going to shape them. I see them now. I see these dark vision races of being of kind of like two worlds now.
So, going back to what you were saying, about the darkness, I've worked, from home for, well over 10 years at this point in time. I work in the basement, so when the power goes out and there is just absolutely no light coming in from outside, none of the lights work. It is like, holy crap, I now have to navigate my way, through the world. So that whole concept of I need a torch at hand, I actually keep a flashlight at my computer in case of these kind of emergencies. I have got light sources stashed about the house, and I know where they are for just, these kinds of situations that, hey, when it's dark and I can't see and I need to get somewhere, to the power box or what have you, you've got things set up. So I can't imagine that adventurers would be any different with, hey, do you always stock up on torches, flint and steel to be able to light them? Things so that, God forbid, we're in a place where there is no light, you can see. Because these are characters that typically go into, dark and, I use the term loosely, but alien places. So, yeah. And then
But if you're an elf or a dwarf, do you even ever worry about that? You never truly are in the dark.
So that's the other thing I wanted to dovetail into is, the colorful world versus the world of, mixed grays. blacks and whites, and where it was in previous editions. It definitely shows layers, but I would imagine some of the details are gonna get lost. You're not going to see as much, so those extra layers that are lost are going to be useful. They're going to be important. So unless you're trying to be stealthy, there's no reason to not want a light source, because as we've talked about in previous videos and this and that, the dark has this universal concept of evil, and that the things that occupy the dark and come out at night are fearful creatures, or creatures to be feared. So you want to be able to light your way so that these creatures don't come to you.
So let's go into like how this would shape their cultures, right? And how how races that have dark vision are gonna interact with darkness, like you said. Like, yes, when they're in their settlements, when they're in their homes, they're probably using torches, lanterns, candles, those things, so that they can see in color. It doesn't mess up their vision. They can see just fine beyond it in dark vision. It's just like, you have a candle, 10-foot radius, color. Beyond the candle, it's all grayscale to you. Or you get that extended, like, here's your lighted area, 10-foot. Here's your 10-foot of dim light, which is going to be like regular light to you. And then you 60 feet beyond that. So it doesn't really hurt you to have the light. But where it changes is like, you're an elf, you're outside of your settlement, it's nighttime. One, if you have starlight going on, then like dim light to you is going to be, and moonlight is going to be like daylight in that 60-foot radius, and you're going to be good. You just can't see anything beyond that. So it's going to limit your range. But if it's pitch black and you want to light a torch, you might want to think twice, right? Because that torch is visible from a long way off, further than you can see now. Now you've kind of marked your position out in the wilderness. That might not be a good idea. We did the newsletter about night, and that got me thinking about dark vision. So like, I kind of put in there, a little thing like a parable for dwarves about Dungar, Dungar's folly, because he's a dwarf and he's in this cavern and it's marvelous and the colors are vibrant and brilliant, and he wants to see them and really, take them in. And his companions are like, no, don't do that. It's a bad idea. And they get spotted by their enemies and they all get murdered, right? So don't be a Dungar, right? So you might come up with things like that in your game. Don't be a Dungar, or, there might be friction between the players in the game because some of them have dark vision and some of them don't. Some of them really do need to see. But the other ones are like, no, we don't do this. We don't light sources for this reason. And then they have to deal with like the frail eyes of humans and halflings and dragonborn, none of which can see in the dark. So I feel like culturally it might change you. Like there might be parables and folklore and tales of why you use light sources in certain places and why you don't, for good and for ill, right? So you could come up with this, and maybe as a player, your DM will let you use some agency, kind of shape the lore in your world around the ability to see or not see, as the case may be.
So you brought up from the dwarven culture, and I've been thinking a lot about this concept lately. But beyond just the vision of taking in the senses, and that in the animal world, animals perceive through a variety of senses, and we as humans, we are visually dominant. But I can tell you, just from my own experiences, that there's a number of animals that, are, more dominant via auditory, through hearing. Snakes take in, through, taste, or through the scent glands in their tongue. That these animals, they don't view things the way that we do. So like, you could even, take these concepts and pull them in, culturally, to these characters. It's a side tangent from vision, but it dovetails into what you're saying about culture. That when we look at elves and their concept of they only reverie for 4 hours, does that mean they're out and about for so much of these times where darkness has fallen, does an elven city ever actually shut down and people reverie wherever they feel like in their day, and could find the concept of, well, everybody goes to sleep at night is just bizarre and alien to them. It's a weird tangent. I apologize.
No,
But
it kind of makes sense. Like it kind of ties into it because they have 4 more hours, in a day, 28 more hours in the week that they're just up, and chances are that's during the night, right? Unless they revel during the day, then it's even more, right? So they're dealing with that. So another really interesting thing is what happens when they're thrust into magical darkness. What if this, like, you've never experienced darkness other than closing your eyes or something that might have blinded you, but now, like, magical darkness, you can't see through it. Like, would races that have martial cast to them ever even really bother training in blind fighting if they have dark vision, right? Like the circumstances that blind them and leave them sightless are so much less than other races. If you're human, like literally, like the sun goes down and you can be effectively blind, right? So that makes more sense. An elf that isn't a drow probably wouldn't take blind fighting. There's no reason for it. The drow have a reason. They summon magical darkness, and so they experience blinding themselves. And Ted's run an adventure like that where he thrust all of our characters into magical darkness, and only the rogue that had blind sight at like 10 feet could really function, and even then still limit it.
And the magical darkness could go even farther. Again, it can bring out that concept of the fear of the dark. And conceptually, you could go to either side. Well, if you never see darkness, you never exist in the dark, perhaps those cultures don't have a fear of the dark. Or it's the other direction of they are terrified of darkness because they are so used to being able to just exist and see all the time that when that is removed, it's basically like you've taken a limb and they don't know how to function.
Like that kind of goes into this another topic, and it's like, is it more psychologically distressing for these races that have dark vision?
So, again, we're not trying to bring in, mechanics, but it's absolutely something that you could do. Is there a save versus fear in these, scenarios for characters who are just thrust into this, such an alien environment? Perhaps it's a little bit more, magical problem than just someone cast, darkness on them. But you could definitely have a lot of fun with it. Or as the player, go ahead and take agency. And if somebody does cast darkness on you, what does that mean? Like, are you like, I'm stunned, or I'm frightened, and I'm just going to give myself the condition? There's a lot of times where that kind of stuff can be fun and problematic. But in the end, like your character has had a chance to experience something and grow from it.
Yeah, like I've seen, players in our games roll the Denozo roll, right?
Denobo.
Or whatever they call it. And the different players to be like, I want to see how my character reacts to this. And I want it to be kind of random just because it's kind of like a scary thing, or they're not sure, or it's not the best choice to make. And, they're like, well, would my character do it? So you might want to consider all of this stuff when you're defining your character and doing your role playing and figuring out, how this is going to all interact with them. I think it can really enrich the role-playing experience as a GM. If you have these scenarios come up, and have NPCs, you could have them respond to it in a way that, maybe the players aren't expecting.
Yeah, it can be a lot of fun and really give players the ability to experience something that they might not have been expecting.
Let us know what you think, in the comments. Scream at us. Tell us how you do it. Do you fear the dark? Does your characters fear? Are you brave heroes and nothing can shake them? But you know, if you want more another Darkvision discussion, then check out Overpowered Race Feature. Is it Wrecking Dungeons and Dragons? It's up here.
You can help Nerdarchy to keep creating these awesome videos here on YouTube by supporting us over on Patreon.
As a thank you, you'll automatically be entered in our monthly giveaways. You have a chance to game with Nerdarchy and more.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.